Before we begin, please hit that like button, share, and subscribe for more. Thanks for being part of the story. This is a story about something that happened to me over 10 years ago. At the time, I was working as an event host, constantly traveling for different events. The incident I'm about to share took place during one of my assignments, a live broadcast event for a professional soccer match. Since my company held the official broadcasting rights, my team and I were always on the move, traveling from one province to another to set up and oversee events. As with most large-scale events, it was common for event organizers to pre-arrange accommodations for the staff, and I was assigned to stay at a particular hotel. However, the moment I heard the name of the hotel I would be staying at, an unsettling feeling crept up my spine. This hotel had a notorious reputation for its paranormal history. People talked about it all the time, stories of eerie occurrences, strange noises, and unexplained sightings. The idea of staying there made my skin crawl. Since I had heard about the hotel's disturbing past beforehand, I had no desire to set foot in it, let alone spend the night there. If I could avoid that hotel, I would. That night, after wrapping up work around 10 p.m., I got a call from a friend who lived nearby. When he found out I was in town for work, he invited me out for a late-night hangout. As soon as I heard the invitation, I felt an immense sense of relief. This was the perfect excuse to stay away from that eerie hotel for as long as possible. I gladly accepted, and even convinced a technician friend from my team to come along. The three of us went out, eating, drinking, and enjoying ourselves. The night stretched on, and before we knew it, the place was about to close. By then, it was already 1 a.m. That's when my technician friend told me he wanted to go out with a woman he had met at the bar. He asked if he could borrow my car, promising to drop me off at my hotel first before heading off on his own. But the thought of going back to that hotel still made my stomach twist. Thinking fast, I came up with an alternative plan. Instead of returning to the original hotel, I asked to be dropped off at a different hotel nearby. Since it wasn't peak travel season, I figured finding a room wouldn't be an issue. When we arrived, I found that the hotel did, in fact, have available rooms. I checked in without hesitation, feeling a sense of relief that I wouldn't have to stay at that other place. As I stepped into my assigned room, I immediately noticed that it looked just like any other standard hotel room. The bathroom was immediately to the right. Moving further in, the bed sat at the center of the room. To the left was a television, and beyond that, a wardrobe. After settling in, I went through my usual nighttime routine, showering, changing into comfortable clothes, and getting ready for bed. Once finished, I turned off all the lights, leaving only the TV on for some background noise. Then, I lay in bed, pulled out my phone, and started scrolling to pass the time. As I lay there, the only sources of light in the room were the soft glow of my phone screen and the dim, flickering light from the television. Everything else was swallowed by darkness. I continued scrolling absent-mindedly, feeling more and more relaxed. And then, a sound. It wasn't particularly loud, but it was distinct, an unsettling noise that instantly caught my attention. Something was rattling, a door shaking slightly, as if someone, or something, was trying to open it. At first I thought it was coming from the entrance door or the bathroom door, but as I listened more carefully, I realized something was off. The sound wasn't coming from the left side of the room. It was coming from the right, and the only thing on that side was the wardrobe. A chill ran down my spine. For a moment, I lay still, heart pounding. My instincts screamed at me not to look, but the longer I ignored it, the more impossible it became to pretend it wasn't happening. Slowly, hesitantly, I turned my head toward the wardrobe, and what I saw made my blood run cold. The wardrobe door was opening, and from inside, a woman was emerging. She was wearing a tank top and denim shorts. My breath caught in my throat. My mind went blank, frozen in pure terror. This was exactly what I had tried to avoid. I had deliberately avoided staying at the other hotel because of its haunted reputation. But now, it had found me anyway. At that moment, I wasn't sure what was running through my mind. I could only glance at the woman from the corner of my eye, wondering what else might happen next. Then, slowly, ever so slowly, she stepped out of the wardrobe. But what truly terrified me was that her bare feet moved soundlessly across the floor. She passed the foot of the bed and stopped beside it, in the narrow space between the bed and the wall. The flickering light from the television barely illuminated her figure, but it was enough. I saw her, every unsettling detail. My mind screamed at me to move, but my body refused to move. I was frozen in place, and then something inside me snapped. Without thinking, I bolted from the bed, grabbing only a towel and my phone as I ran out, down the dimly lit corridor, past the silent rooms, until I reached the hotel lobby. But when I arrived, there was no one there, not a single staff member at the front desk. The entire lobby was empty. A strange, suffocating stillness filled the space. The vast, dimly lit room only made me feel more alone. I glanced around, hoping to see someone, but there was nothing, no voices, just silence. At a complete loss, I sank onto one of the sofas. I was shirtless, wearing only my shorts, with the towel draped over my shoulders, completely unsure of what to do. What do I do now? Going back to the room? No way. Calling a friend? I hesitated. It was late. I didn't want to wake anyone. So, I just sat there, deciding to wait until morning to figure things out. As I sat still on the couch, lost in thought, that's when I noticed something. A man. Out of nowhere, a well-dressed man walked into the lobby. I hadn't seen him enter, hadn't heard a single footstep. I had no idea where he had come from. He approached and sat down at the opposite end of the same sofa I was sitting on. Then he spoke.
"Why are you sitting here?"
His tone was casual, but something about it felt off. Still shaken, I had no interest in conversation. I just wanted to sit in silence. "It's nothing," I muttered, hoping he would take the hint and leave me alone, but he didn't.
"You know what?"
He continued.
"Doing the same thing over and over. It's painful, agonizing."
It was such an odd statement that I found myself turning to look at him. Our eyes met.
"I loved her so much that I never thought she would betray me,"
he said, his voice low and heavy. And then, in one swift motion, he reached into his jacket. He pulled out a gun and pressed it against his temple. I barely had time to process what was happening before. Bang! The deafening gunshot echoed through the lobby. I recoiled, my entire body jolting in shock. My breath caught in my throat. My mind blanked. For a moment, the world stood still. Then, chaos. A scream tore from my throat before I even realized I was screaming. Moments later, 2 hotel staff members rushed out from the back, hurrying toward me, their voices frantic.
"What happened? What happened?"
Panic surged through me. Too afraid to look, I just pointed blindly at the other end of the sofa where the man was sitting, my voice shaking. "A man, he shot himself. He was right there." I turned to look, trembling, but there was nothing. The sofa was empty. The man was gone. The blood, the body, the gun, all of it, gone. My mind trying to comprehend, what the hell is happening? The staff also turned to look but found nothing. Then they turned back to me. When our eyes met, I decided to tell them everything, but as I opened my mouth, the words stuck in my throat. I stammered. My thoughts were a mess. They tried to calm me down, urging me to take deep breaths. It took some time, but eventually my breathing steadied, and I recounted everything. And then I asked, what exactly happened in that room I was staying in? The 2 staff members exchanged uneasy glances, then silence. Neither of them uttered a single word. At that moment, other hotel guests, having heard the commotion, came out to see what was going on. Among them was an older security guard who had been standing at a distance, observing the situation. Then, as if he had been waiting for this moment, the old security guard slowly approached, and he spoke.
"That room you stayed in? 3 weeks ago, a couple checked into it. That night, in the dead of night, the man came down to this very lobby and sat on this very sofa, and then, right here, he shot himself. When the police arrived, they went up to check his room."
The security guard continued.
"Inside the wardrobe, they found the woman's body."
A shiver ran through me. Only now did I realize the woman in the wardrobe, the one who had walked past my bed and stopped beside me. She was the same woman who had been murdered by the man who had just pulled the trigger in front of me. As we continued talking, I learned that the reason I had been given that room in the first place was because of a new hotel staff member. This staff member, who had only been working for a week, had seen that the room was vacant and checked me into it, completely unaware of its history. That night, I had no choice but to return to my previous hotel, walking back in, nothing but my shorts and a towel over my shoulders. The next morning, I spoke with a friend who worked at a local radio station. He confirmed that everything I had experienced the night before was real. Reflecting on everything, I wondered if I had stayed at the first hotel, the one with an infamously haunted history, would I have encountered something just as terrifying? No one knows.